Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm doing another counter Noam Chomsky on U.S. foreign policy views. Okay. Chomsky noted that the U.S. backed brutal dictatorial regime in Iran until 1979. He said it ended in 1979. Okay. The brutal dictatorial regimes of Iran did not end in 1979 and is continuing to this day. Okay? Let me explain this. Okay? We'll get into the dictatorial regimes that are back to the U.S. in a minute. Okay? But we're going to talk about what happened after the U.S. was ousted, and it was just as bad, if not worse, of a regime. Okay? Chomsky doesn't mention the crimes of Ayatollah Khomeini. Okay? In 1988, this was 9 years after the U.S. was kicked out of Iran, at least between 20 and 30,000 people died. Most of those victims were people 20 years old or younger. Those are most of the victims. They were hung. A lot of them were hung. They were taken up on forklifts and they were hung from steel beams, and these people did nothing more than speak out against the Ayatollah Khomeini. And there's documents out there that have been turned over where Ayatollah Khomeini is calling for his opponent's execution. Okay? And the victims' mothers were beaten for trying to hold mourning services, for trying to hold funerals. These victims' headstones were smashed. That happened. And, you know, I've never seen Chomsky make any mention of the brutality of Ayatollah Khomeini. He killed political opponents. And when President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, when he ran against a more moderate candidate, this was just about 5 or 6 years ago, that election was rigged by the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. People took to the streets, started chanting "Death to the dictator." Now, there's a lot of younger Iranians that are pro-Western, or that they don't like the direction their country has been headed since 1979. Okay? Now, in 1953, yeah, the U.S. and U.K., not a bright moment in their foreign policy. They overthrew a democratically elected Iranian regime, and they set up the Shah, monarchy government. The Shah built up Iran's economy, but at the same time, he oppressed people. His wife bathed in milk while the poor people starved. That happened. But in 1979, Ayatollah Khomeini executed a lot of people. He ran a very brutal regime and called for his opponents to be killed. You know, during the Shah, you had freedom of religion. There's some freedom of religion in Iran, but it's limited. Now, since Ayatollah Khomeini took power, and his successor, Ali Khamenei, same way. Women have less rights than they did under the Shah. Chomsky doesn't note that. And the Guardian and the Telegraph published articles about the human rights abuses from Ayatollah Khomeini. 75 victims testified, some in person, some via video link. Testimony from 75 victims. And just the methods of torture were just unbearable. I mean, I'm not talking about their execution. I'm talking about they were tortured before they were executed. And a lot of times the hanging, they would hang 6 people at a time in 30-minute intervals. What the Ayatollah Khomeini did. And his followers did. And actually, one of the biggest testimonies, one of the biggest proofs of evidence that this actually happened was from a guy who is now in exile under house arrest in the holy city of Qom. Qom. Holy Iran city of Qom. And he testified, he was in Ayatollah Khomeini's main circle, main group of cronies. But he spoke his mind and spoke out against Ayatollah Khomeini, and he paid the price. So Ayatollah Khomeini was the one who kicked the Americans out of Iran. He and many of his followers held Americans hostage at the U.S. Embassy for 444 days. And they're sitting here doing a lot of these atrocities, or having done a lot of these atrocities. So, Chomsky makes little or no mention of what Ayatollah Khomeini did. And Ayatollah Khomeini was violently anti-American. So, and also, like, in 1953, and this is not, it doesn't excuse what the U.S. and the U.K. did. They took a lot of Iran's oil profits. There was a lot of things that didn't go on that went on that shouldn't have. But they wanted to build a satellite to monitor the Soviet Union and their expansion. And Soviets tried to expand in Afghanistan in 1979, 1980. So, it was still wrong, and like I said, it's not an excuse. It's just so everybody can know all the facts so they won't demonize the U.S. and the U.K. and all this, because there's plenty of blame to go around in this situation. So, hope everybody's doing well. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.